I keep thinking about this story. There's this video that kills you 7 days after you watch it.
I just want to exterminate!
The second it's over, the phone rings, and this voice says,
Hey, I'm Michael. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I'm a lifelong Doctor Who fan, both classic and new, but I'm also a fan of movies. Now, what happens when you combine the two, you may ask? We get drama! Back in 2011, director David Yates, seen here wearing a scarf that looks suspiciously like a poop, has directed 4 Harry Potter movies and 1 Fantastic Beasts film. And the fan reaction to him directing was fairly poor.
They have a message for the human race.
But it's true. Let's hear it.
Doctor Who fans celebrate. The Time Lord is coming to the big screen. Hey guys, Tatiana Carrier for Clever Movies bringing you all the top movie news. Now that David Yates is done directing the last Harry Potter movie, he's looking into taking on his next projects, and yes...
Whilst this is a fairly old story, people flocked online giving their thoughts and opinions on why this film was a bad idea. Meanwhile, I was all for it, but I'll talk more about that in depth later. Even the head writer himself, Moffat, shut down David Yates when saying there'd be no Doctor Who movie. To be fair, the reasons he gave does make sense in terms of licensing, however he does say this one point: if it's going to be a different Doctor, we're going to try and sell the 2 Doctors at the same time. I know there's been loads of Doctors, but there's only been one on at a time. You don't have James Bond on television and one on the cinema. If he's the same guy, then when are we going to make that? Which, he has a point, but only half a point. Okay, whilst it would be an odd experience, there's no complaints when the Flash turned up in Justice League when the Flash had his own series, was there? There's no confusion about the continuity about Star Wars Rebels when The Force Awakens was released, or better yet, no complaints when Star Wars The Clone Wars ran a TV and movie alongside the official films. I don't think that's a problem, and it somewhat makes you seem like you don't have faith in your general public. Yes, they're not all into geekdom, but when watching the 2009 Star Trek movie, they knew it was a prequel and they shared elements with the show, but wasn't the show directly. Doctor Who has had films before though. We've had 2 films starring Peter Cushing as Doctor, airing whilst the series was being broadcasted, although those 2 films were based on stories. We obviously had the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie starring Paul McGann. And not counting any counterfeit Doctor Who DVDs made in the wilderness years, we then came to 2015 when they announced, are you ready for this? A K9 movie.
K9 movie set for cinemas in 2017.
Go one more time!
K9 movie set for cinemas in 2017.
Stop mocking me!
I mean, where to begin? How about the fact that K9 is a dog from the 70s, got a spin-off made by the Australians, and a redesign that wasn't very good in my opinion. And the villain of the film would be Omega. That's the equivalent of Pee Wee Herman fighting Negan, or Lassie fighting Galactus. Omega is a fan favourite villain that is all powerful and has been campaigned by fans in their thousands to come back in the new series. Does it seem like an insult to anyone that a dog would be fighting instead of a Doctor himself or herself now? No. Many people were overjoyed with this news. Writer Bob Baker, who created K9, was attached to a project and it seemed all set to go. Then it just fell silent. But what would a Doctor Who film look like? Well, funny you should ask that. How would I do a Doctor Who movie?
Too sophisticated for me? I know music better than any of you. When do they stop tuning their instruments and play the music?
That is the music!
So in this hypothetical scenario, I'm pitching my idea for a film. It'd be set on Gallifrey with a Doctor, presumably first incarnation, finding his feet and deciding who he wants to become. Imagine Black Panther meets Hacksaw Ridge. Black Ridge? Anyway, being set on Gallifrey, we'd learn all head figures who helped found Time Lord Society, including Rassilon, Omega, and the other. In my Doctor Who movie pitch, the Doctor loses his dad at a young age, which causes him to be a little bit of a troublemaker. At age 7, he's stealing fruit from market traders, cat burgling and sneaking into buildings with a good friend and master, but also sticking up for people. My one complaint with Doctor Who is that we only ever saw Gallifrey's political side. We never really saw the people, only really the outsiders. In my story, the Doctor helps and sticks up for the outsiders, who are essentially a castaway by the Time Lords. The Doctor at this point is older, and the Time Lords try to recruit the Doctor and the Master into the Academy, but after a deadly Sontaran assault on Gallifrey to try and get a hold of time travel technology to help with their war against the Rootans, which they actually steal, but have no way of opening it, they store in their ship and fly away. The Sontarans kill the Doctor's mum, which sends the Doctor in a downward spiral. He wants revenge. But the Time Lords, being stuffy bureaucrats at this time, don't want to interfere and forbid him to pursue the matter being in the Academy. The Doctor and Master disobey the Academy and team up. They steal Type 40 TARDIS and go out on their own to try and wipe out the Sontarans. To sum up in a few sentences, the Doctor and Master chase down the Sontaran ship in order to try and get the time capsule back, but this is just the first time the Doctor flying the TARDIS, so he's actually quite terrible at it. The Sontarans shoot the TARDIS down and it lands on Earth in World War II, taking a police box shape. It's here the Doctor sees the good in humanity, people banding together and helping them rebuild towns in the war effort. He even helps people with injuries and repairs when he's even having a break from repairing a TARDIS himself. The Doctor needs parts to rebuild, which he requires. Meanwhile, the Master is fascinated with human weapons. He steals a pistol from a British soldier, takes it back to the TARDIS and combining human and Gallifreyan technology makes the TCE Mark I, whereas the Doctor makes a primitive version of a sonic screwdriver using a World War II torch. After fixing the TARDIS, they land on Sontar, where the Sontarans and Rootans are fighting. They sneak inside the main HQ to find them trying to forcefully open the TARDIS. The Master uses his weapon against the Sontarans, which, to the Doctor's dismay, they break open the TARDIS that the Sontaran stole with a Mark I primitive sonic screwdriver. This effectively is the Master's TARDIS now. Now we have a TARDIS, the Doctors think they should leave. This isn't good enough for the Master though, he wants revenge. The Doctor's moral compass has been changed. We can see how much good he can do instead of how much damage he can cause. However, travelling with the Master at this point, he just wants destruction and revenge. The two have a sort of Thor and Loki vibe. At this point, the main figures want something. The Sontarans and Rootans want time travel technology to outdo one another. The Master just wants to wipe out both of them, essentially playing God, and the Doctor just wants to find peace in all of it. The Doctor escapes the Master's TARDIS. The Master is now separated from the Doctor in his own TARDIS and wants to bring about the death of two races. And the only way he can do that is just going back in time and just wiping them out whilst they're primitive. The Doctor urges the Master just to leave it, because he wants peace, because he's seen too much destruction, both on Gallifrey, Earth and Sontar. So the Master attempts to go back to kill the first few Sontarans. The Doctor explains this will create a paradox, but the Master isn't listening. The Doctor not wanting to kill his childhood best friend, but equally not wanting the Master to kill the first few Sontarans, therefore altering history on a massive scale, contains a Master in a time loop, reliving a few seconds of time travel for all eternity. The end climax is the Doctor making this grandiose speech to the Sontarans, not really wanting time travel because ultimately they're a warrior race, and if they had time travel it would just be over in a second. The film would end with the Sontaran and Rootан war still continuing, which meant the Doctor has failed, his friend's now locked in a time loop, his parents are dead and his home planet abandoned him. He opens the door, looks down on Gallifrey, just stares at it, and then decides to leave. If this was a cinema version, it would need to be big actors. Film actors that would be fairly small but fairly big at the same time, which is why I think James McAvoy would be a good contender for the potential first incarnation of the Doctor, with maybe James Nesbitt playing the Master. I know you're asking, why no Daleks or Cybermen? It's all about the hype train. There's a reason why Heath Ledger's Joker isn't in Batman Begins. I imagine if I had to pace my film in a free film structure, it would be Sontarans, Cybermen with Susan, Ian and Barbara, and then Daleks, which results within the first regeneration put to film. I realise this may sound controversial to my pitch. I realise die-hard fans won't like this, but this is merely a hypothetical scenario, so I'd like to know, if you're in charge of a Doctor movie, how would you do it? Would you have it star the Doctor, or a companion in his, hers, its own movie? Sound off in the comments below. In the meantime, this has been Michael, and I'll see you next time.